Shaquille O'Neal.
He rarely disappoints on the court, and he never disappoints off it.
The big man himself, Shaquille O'Neal.
I was a little surprised. He is a hungry guy, of course.
Who owns Marilyn Monroe? Who owns Elvis Presley? Who owns J.C. Penney? Who owns Forever 21? Me.
Shaquille O'Neal owns 355 businesses with a valuation north of $500 million. And he makes more every single year than he did at the peak of his NBA career. But what most people don't know is the exact strategy that Shaquille O'Neal used to become so wealthy off the court. And this is the same guy who made some of the worst financial decisions of any professional athlete of all time. And what's even crazier is you can invest exactly like Shaq does without having the millions that he started with.
It's okay to be a superstar basketball player, but at some point you want to start investing in businesses.
Before Shaq became the entrepreneur that he is today, he made over $292 million during his NBA career. And because Shaq's likable personality, he was never short of sponsors wanting to throw money at him. You may know him from his Icy Hot commercials, or back in the day when he was on Pepsi or did Taco Bell commercials. Now, Shaq was raking in millions of dollars, but he was spending it just as fast. There's also a famous clip where Shaq talks about spending $1 million a day, not even realizing that when he got his paycheck, that he had to actually deduct taxes from it, and he just spent it all.
You get $1 million for an endorsement deal.
And I spend it in one day.
This coincides with the stat that over 60% of NBA players 5 years after they get out of the league are broke. It shouldn't come as a shock to anyone that most professional athletes have no idea how to spend their money, and most of them are going to go broke a few years after they leave the league after making millions of dollars. We've all seen the clips of these athletes walking around with millions of dollars of jewelry, the latest fashion, cars up the yin yang. They have everything out there that the world can offer them, and yet 5 years later after they leave the league, they're broke.
I lost a significant portion of money gambling, a lot of exotic cars, jewelry, designer watches. It ultimately ended the bulk of my wealth.
And getting back to Shaq, it was after spending that $1 million a day that Magic Johnson was able to reach out to him and have an intervention and let him know that if he went down this path, he was going to end up just like all the rest of those professional athletes after they left the league. And that is where Shaq's entrepreneurial journey began. Now, Shaq is not a traditional entrepreneur. He didn't go do a new sexy startup. He didn't come out with a new product. What he did was go out and buy boring businesses. His strategy was super simple. Go out and buy boring businesses that make great cash flow. Some of those are Papa John's, Five Guys. He bought a bunch of car washes, 24-hour fitness gyms, all of them that are recession-resistant businesses that print money. You might be wondering why Shaq didn't just get a financial advisor who was going to invest his money into an index fund and get a 10% return year over year. And the reason is because Shaq realized that true wealth was built off of owning cash-flowing assets, particularly cash-flowing boring businesses. Instead of trying to launch his own supplement line, clothing line, energy drink, or school group, Shaq decided that he was going to go buy what works. To give you a perspective on the difference between investing in index funds or buying boring businesses, an index fund, if you're lucky, it's going to give you anywhere between a 7 and 10% return year over year. Whereas buying a boring business at least is going to give you 100% return in year one. In order to show you the difference between the return you can have on an index fund versus buying a boring business, we're going to do this thought experiment. You can have an index fund that's going to make you around an 8% return, which would be amazing. And you're going to hold this index fund for 5 years, and you're going to put an original 100 grand into that fund and not touch it. On the other hand, you're going to put $100,000 down on $1 million car wash. And that car wash, after all debt service and expenses, is going to be cash flowing you $150,000 a year. And this is a very run-of-the-mill deal. So now let's compare the two after 5 years. On the index fund, after 5 years of having an 8% return compounded annually, you're going to make about $150,000. So you've gained about $50K on your initial 100 grand investment. Now, if we go over to the car wash on that deal, that $100K that you originally invested 5 years later has paid you back $750,000. We're talking about a $600,000 difference in the amount of money that you're making on this deal. It's not even in the same category. And if you're going out there and buying these types of boring businesses, the same type that Shaq is going out and buying with his franchises, then you're going to have over a 95% success rate after 5 years of ownership. So looking at this from a risk-adjusted perspective, you have a 95% chance of success to make the $600,000 more dollars in the example between our index fund and our car wash. This is not just exclusive to Shaq. Most of the population is uninformed that they can do this exact same strategy without the millions. Even though Shaq had a major head start since he had millions of investable capital put towards his deals, the average person can do it without that. It still surprises me how so few people actually know about this strategy. There are tons of recession-proof industries that people can acquire with zero money out of pocket utilizing the SBA process and seller financing. You can use these SBA loans and create a financing strategies to do exactly what Shaq did, but you could do it in a fraction of the time with little to no money out of your pocket. And as I mentioned earlier, these businesses have been making money sometimes for over 20 years. Businesses like HVAC, plumbing, accounting, car washes, pest control, landscaping companies. There are dozens of types of boring companies out there that are printing cash on a yearly basis. And just so we're clear, you think Shaq was actually putting the fries in the bag at the Five Guys that he owned? No, Shaq was not running the day-to-day on any of the businesses that he owned. You as well can buy these businesses and delegate the running of the day-to-day to someone who knows the business way better than you do. I've been able to do exactly the same thing with 6 businesses making over $850K a year in cash flow. It's not rocket science. Now, if you want to learn more about investing and buying businesses, I actually just made a video breaking down 7 boring businesses that you can buy with $0. Thanks for watching.